Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broken. If you're going through a divorce, don't worry, you're not alone. This is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. Today, I am so incredibly thrilled to have Julia Hoffman with us. Julia is based in Dallas, Texas, but just like a lot of us, works with people all over the country at this stage of the game and is determined to reshape the narrative around divorce and co-parenting. With a master's in marriage and family therapy and specialized training from Martha Beck's coaching program, Julia offers unique expertise informed by both professional knowledge and personal experience as a child of divorce and co-parent herself. As a proud mother alongside her wife, Christy, Julia shares in the joys and challenges of co-parenting their four daughters. Oh, four daughters. Craziness with their dad and bonus mom. I want to delve into this. This is going to be I want to learn more about this. Julia is committed to eradicating the stigma surrounding divorce and empowering divorcing parents to reimagine their family and discover the possibilities of a post-divorce life filled with joy and peace. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by your divorce or your current station in life, please don't be. Julia is here to help us break it down so you can feel confident and prepared by creating a clearer picture of not only your financial situation, but how you can tackle the personal challenges that you might be facing. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, buckle up, and let's once again get you personally and financially empowered. Julia, it's so great to have you with us.
Jamie, do people just like not listen to what you're saying just because they're mesmerized by your voice?
I don't know that. I don't think it's the case at all.
I sounded great there in that intro with that.
Maybe I should do voiceovers? No,
you should. Yeah. You're in the right.
I broke my nose 2 times and I'm so twice and I'm so nasally it would never happen. But I thank you for saying that. So
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you're doing this.
I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped that you're here because co-parenting, we talked a little bit about this in the lead up to our conversation today. It seems to be one of those hot buttons, like the challenge among challenges post-divorce. So I want to learn more about like how you got into this world, maybe some of your experience and so on. And then, we can take it from there.
Sure. Well, the short way I got into this is that I was divorced myself 5 years ago, went through a divorce, learned a lot, and then started counseling, I started a big group for women coming out later in life. And the thing that I found that was the hardest for these women, the most painful, it wasn't around coming out. It was around their family and divorcing and the guilt and what it all would look like and the fear. And working with those couples, sometimes it's individual, depending on the circumstance, was so personally rewarding because having what I call a successful co-parenting relationship, a really beautiful united family, has been the best thing out of the divorce experience, and something that I didn't think I knew was possible, but we're not set up for it to be possible in our society. So it's really rewarding work.
When you decided I'm not sure if it was you or your ex-spouse that decided to drop the D word, but when you were deciding on that or starting through this process, not only did you had some other things to talk about, right? Which we can. I dropped
the D word, and I dropped the G word. I dropped the D and the G, the divorce and the gay.
Yeah. Well, I have heard of that happening in a couple of the cases that we are working on and have worked on. Mm-hmm. So how did you make that I'm just fascinated by this because so many of us drop the D word. We have this vision of what it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And in my particular case, it was, hey, I just want everybody to be kumbaya. And I want everything to be like, everybody's going to be cool. This just isn't working out. I'm going to go we're going to do this and everybody's going to be cool. And the response I received was, I'm going to make this as painful and as expensive and as awful as possible. So buckle up.
Yeah.
You had a vision for what this was going to look like. How did what was your vision? And was it exactly what transpired?
Yeah, my vision was exactly how it is right now.
Oh, it's awesome.
Which doesn't mean it was easy, but I probably I got sober, met my wife. My story is crazy. Got sober, met my wife in AA, which I do not recommend They call it the 13th step. I do not recommend it, but 5.5 years later, both of us are still alcohol free, and it's really, really wonderful. Realized I was in love with her, which meant I realized in the same moment that I was gay, and told my husband. So it was quite there's a lot going on in those days, but I knew how it could look. It's like I had clarity for the first time. I was, years of being a really shitty wife. I didn't know it at the time, but I was a really shitty wife. I treated him badly. I was really unhappy, and I won't speak for him, but that can't be fun to be married to someone that is experiencing that. We loved our family. We loved our children. We had 3 young children. The youngest was 14 months at the time. So 3 young daughters. That was the saddest and hardest thing for us. But because our goal was to be the best parents we could be and to have them not be, what everybody says, permanently damaged or effed up from this experience, we knew that we had to do it differently. And I know what it takes. And it takes a lot of work that doesn't come, I would say it doesn't come naturally to people, like dropping your ego. That's not something that's people do every day. So anyway, I can get into it, but I drew out the picture of what I wanted our life to look like, and literally drew the house, the 2 houses, and the school and the kids, and held it up and said, this is what we can do. And we did. And I get so mad that we don't live in a culture that supports other people to do the same thing. We live in a culture that it's automatically shameful. It's automatically, oh, I'm so sorry. It's automatically like this horrible, horrible thing. And it does not have to be.
Yeah. I mean, I would concur. I mean, I see it day in and day out with a lot of the clients that we work with, and my own personal situation. Like, I lost family members over my divorce. I lost countless nights of sleep, and with the one of the podcasts that is going to come out in the next week or so that people should tune into is about my financial experience in the divorce. And I mean, I'm here almost 7 years later, still dealing with attorneys because it just won't go away. And we're like $75,000 into it.
Yeah.
And I've since remarried, Julia. Yeah. So it's so unnecessary.
Has your ex-wife remarried?
No, she hasn't. Okay. No. She has not.
So why do you, what do you think? Why do you think 7 years later, you're still in this?
A lot of it came from, I would think that picture.
I should say, what is your part in it?
Well, I'll answer that question, and I'm gonna but I had a thought, and I'm so old, I'm gonna forget if I don't tell you this right now. So that that picture that you drew, right? You put a white picket fence around it, and put your 2.5 kids, and put the nice car in the driveway and all that stuff. That was her picture of it, of what our life should look like, which didn't resemble anything that my life. What I wanted my life to be, right? I didn't want to have to work for the man and have to keep up with the Joneses and feel, and that's where this ultimately stemmed from. And I think my part in it is really just not really teeing her up for it like I should have. I should have spent probably a year or 2 kind of grooming her for this. If things don't change and we don't do some things differently, this is how I feel, and this is the direction this is going to go. Instead, it was, I've now blown my top and I can't take this one more second. I'm leaving.
And you didn't say the things to her that maybe you would have in retrospect. Why didn't you say those things to her?
I think there was it was my job to be the provider and put that white picket fence around the house, put the nice cars. And I did all that stuff. We went on trips and all this stuff. And most of it was just I really wasn't into it. Right. But I felt like I had the obligation to do it. Right. And I feel and there's a lot of people that feel that way. I talk to them every day. You talk to them every day. And some of it, I'm sure, stems back to your comment about the stigma that is around this and what society, because once you have that scarlet letter, it's tough to get, it's tough to hide it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I feel for men and women. So I'll just make a sweeping generalization, but you have a role, like you said, you have a role. You kind of fell into that role naturally, right? Like the man is supposed to provide and take care of the family and do specific things. And you're not, if you go off of that path, what, you're less of a man.
Mhm.
You're not as, I mean, it's just not what society expects of you. And then, well, I didn't ask you, do you have children?
3.
Okay. So then I don't like saying ex, but for the purposes of this conversation, I'm gonna say ex-wife. So then your ex-wife, she has the mother role. Like
Mhm.
you never leave your children. You never divorce your children. I can't tell you how many people said to me, you're leaving your husband and children for another woman. That's what people would
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
How could you leave your husband and
Mhm.
your children? Um, to which I said, where the hell am I going?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going
I'm
anywhere.
not going anywhere. I'm literally like, I mean, like, not to mention with technology, I can be there in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's the rule that we always had, which, and my kids know this rule to this day. Even if I'm in a meeting and something comes up, you are going to call me if you need something, and I will answer the phone because nothing is more important than you.
That's right.
And that's the message that they've always received. And I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
people, and yeah, it's just,
And you're at all the games and
yeah.
you're at all the stuff. You just didn't want to be married anymore.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so now our jobs, a plural being the two of us, is helping people transition both, emotionally and also financially into their new lives. So
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the tips and tricks that you can share just like off the top of your head? Like what are the first things people need to be thinking about from that perspective? I know I have my
Yeah.
thoughts around it, but I love to hear yours.
Yeah. I think the thing that surprised me the most personally, and what I really try to encourage people to do when I work with them, and I'm so glad you said that about saying the thing before you forget, because usually once every podcast that I do, mid thought, the
It's
thought
gone.
is gone, mid
It's
thought.
gone. It's
So
gone.
I don't know if that's a 45 thing, just turned 45 or what, but where people go wrong is they go from being married to making the decision to divorce to divorcing, right? But there's no, like, the divorce process is not a healing transition. That, and I don't mean to sound woo-woo by saying healing, but there needs to be, you do all this work to decide if you're going to get divorced, and then you make the decision. You're not done with the work, whether that's with your soon to be ex or just with yourself. Where people go wrong is if they don't do the work, then they carry all that resentment and they carry all those issues into the co-parenting. And then they're treating the co-parent the same way they basically did, or worse, when they were married. And that is, you cannot do that anymore. Like, you lose the right to treat that person how you did when you were married. And now they are a colleague, and you are respectful and kind, and really work on having a good relationship, because that is what your children need. That is how you protect your children.
Yeah. I love that you said that they were a colleague, because one of the
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I always say, 99% of the folks that we work with are women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to be sexist, it just, and
No,
I joke about this. I joke about this all the time. It's because women are smarter when it comes to this stuff, and they know
Mm-hmm.
what they don't know, and they know that they need the help, and they know that getting the help is going to put them in a much, a more solid place moving forward. And
Yeah.
they don't have financial beer muscles and that ego. One of the other podcast guests that we had on just a couple of weeks ago said it was the John Wayne syndrome that men have when it comes to the financial things. They think they know everything and they've got it all handled. And so many women reach out for this help. And one of the things that I tell them all the time is, you are now the CEO of your life.
That's right.
You are now it's Julia Incorporated. And you're going to be very practical and pragmatic, and you're going to take the emotion out of it to the best you possibly can. And you're going to be cordial to the other side, because anything you say can or will be used against you in the court of law. Right? So right. Text messages, phone calls, voicemails, emails, you name it, all that stuff is going to be up there on a projector screen for everybody to see. And you want to make sure that there's nothing to show. Right.
That accountability is so helpful. I wish we had the projector and the screen for married people. Wish it was the same accountability, because it would really help. But yeah, it's you have to be on your best behavior.
We're talking about the courts here, so I have this question. I want to make sure I ask it since we're kind of on this topic. So we talked about my $75,000 legal battle that will never end and whatever. But how do you help reduce costs, right, when it comes to getting through the divorce process? Like, what are some things that people can glean?
Yeah, the more conflict, the more money.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really that simple. So we did collaborative divorce, which is more expensive upfront. It is, because you got all these people. You have right? The financial person, you have each person has if I'm familiar with it, each person has their own attorney, but the attorneys work together for the same child therapist, the family therapist, the financial person. Everybody's on. So you have, like I said, our was that we'd get our children through this as unscathed and with as much growth, I guess, as possible. And so when you do that, they really help when you want to go in a different direction. And I think I won't speak for all attorneys, but I just know that I've heard that sometimes attorneys can get into that tit for tat or that battle. If people can work together and make decisions just on the kids and do their own damn right outside of the legal part, it saves thousands and thousands of dollars. And more importantly, what our attorney said, and it is true, if you set this foundation now, you've paved the way for years of parenting together, because we will share grandchildren together.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully, we will attend events and weddings together. So it was really important to me to lay the groundwork so that happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. We do a lot of collaborative work. I'm actually a part of an association called the Amicable Divorce Network, which is everybody I think there's probably 300 to 400 of us now that are in this group, this association, and everybody's focused on the amicable part of this, right? Like, how do the attorneys work together? How do the financial people work together? And you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head earlier when you said, it is a little more expensive, but it's the same thing I tell people all the time. Like, it sounds counterintuitive to hire a financial person, an attorney, a divorce coach, or a therapist, or it seems counterintuitive. But when everybody stays in their lane and you get the best of everybody, the best financial advice, the best legal advice, the best emotional advice, the best this, the best that, and they all work collectively together, in my experience, you're going to have a much better experience overall. And you're going to be on the other side of this thing with your finances intact, with your mental faculties intact. I mean, I was so stressed out in my divorce.
Yeah.
Health issues started to arise.
Sure.
And I see this, and I finally get through that and get back on the exercise train and everything else, and you're much better now. But during in the throes of it, it was gnarly, right?
What was your support system? What was your group of people around you? Did you have that?
Yeah, I think I had a pretty good team of people, like people that I worked with were very, we were close. And there was a time prior to COVID when we were all working in offices, and at the time I didn't have my wealth management company where I was working from home remotely, and I was working for a big name financial services company, and it was just water cooler talk, and every once in a while I had a couple of very close friends that I used to work with that I'd be able to poke my head in every day and give them a lowdown on what was going on and just be able to decompress. And, I met my now wife, after I decided that I wanted a divorce, and she was there to be able to guide me and support me through this whole thing. She was going through the same, her divorce was very, very different. She was the $1,000 divorce where everybody's just going to sign the paperwork and send them off to the courts and everybody's done. And her ex-husband is our contractor and has done a bunch of work for us, and he's here at Thanksgiving and Christmas and everything else. Like, that's they have your experience. Mine was a complete opposite. So the beauty of that is that there was no stress on that side. So she was available to help me through that, navigate that, and then close, family and friends to be there to support you. So it's all about creating team you. I say it all the time, and our listeners and clients hear me say this all the time, but it's all about creating team you and surrounding yourself with people that are going to be there to support you. And sometimes it costs money, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's money well spent.
That's hard. We'll just say that's hard to be in a new partnership and one person's divorce experience is going very well and the other's isn't.
Yeah.
So I feel for you and your now wife, because that's a whole other episode, but that can really be difficult. I
Absolutely
have experience in that and work with people with that. The bringing on new partners just adds another layer, and you feel like shit because you feel like I should be doing this better. So I feel for you. I'm sorry that it is.
My experience has propelled me into the work that I do, and it's why I'm so passionate about it. It's why I want to help as many people as I can. It's why I regret not doing it 10 years ago, because I could have helped thousands of people at this time, not just, a couple hundred. Right. I mean, that's,
you didn't know 10 years ago. You didn't know what you were divorced 10 years ago. Right.
No, I was not.
Yeah, you didn't know what you didn't know.
And I think I'm a better financial planner and a better advocate for people that are going through divorce, because I've had this experience. So it is all really a blessing in disguise for sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
The water cooler, were those people supportive of not only you, but of your ex-wife?
They didn't know her.
Okay.
They didn't know her. Yeah. She didn't come around much, didn't participate in like work events, the company Christmas party type of thing, never really participated in that stuff. Not by,
so they were, your support system. I'll just say this, it gets really sticky. And I think outside people with good intentions contribute to this, that's supposed to, the strife, that it's supposed to be contentious I think it's helpful to say, like, Jamie, I never liked her. I never liked her. She's a bee, I don't know, can you swear on? Can I swear on this?
Oh,
I won't.
Yeah.
She's a bitch. You're better off. You're, all of those kind of things that I really believe people are they're well-intentioned, but it is so not helpful.
Definitely not. And I wasn't really succumbed to that. I didn't really have to succumb to that much. I'm sure it came up every so often, but it wasn't anything that really impacted me all that much. Everybody was pretty well supportive and pretty understanding. And
okay, that's good. You had separate friends. You had sort of separate.
Yeah. Things. I was in my work silo, I was working, 40 to 60 hours a week, and I was traveling, had people that I saw people at work and spent more time with people at work than I did, unfortunately, with her and at home in many cases.
Yeah.
So this is a financial. This is
yes.
not. This is.
Yes, but it all. In fact, I go ahead. I'm writing down my thoughts so I don't lose it. Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What is the question? What is Julia? Go for
it. Speaking of the financial part and doing the work, I'm thinking of one client in particular that he went through the divorce process and he made some decisions that weren't, if he was pretty clear and grounded and had taken his ego out and had really thought through it, he would not have made those decisions otherwise. Right. And I said, you can go with your gut. You can make any decision you want. I just want you to know that by making this, whatever financial decision, you are going to have to be okay with it afterwards. There's no going back and saying, well, I was overly generous, or you're going to dig yourself a hole if you don't feel really good about it, whether that is being overly generous or I guess underly generous, if that's a word. You have to make hard financial decisions so you don't carry it forward. And unfortunately, he carried it forward and it caused a lot of problems. So what are your thoughts about working with people in that way?
Like you said, there are no takebacks, right? There's no takebacks
No
when
takebacks.
you document, you put things down in black and white and you document it and it's signed off by a judge. You better be damn well sure that you're happy with the decision that you made.
Yeah.
And even as a financial planner for almost, I was probably 13 years or so at that point, a certified financial planner, had all the designations, had all the experience, managed hundreds of relationships. Even having that experience, I still was in the same shoes that your client was. I look back and go, why did I decide to do that? Why did I do this? Why did that? And this is where it came from. And this is what I want listeners to really grasp onto as we're having this conversation. You cannot make decisions in haste. And
Yes.
that was my main problem. I was dishing out, writing checks to attorneys. Every email and text message and phone call, you write an attorney, they're going to rack it. They're going to calculate it. They're going to calculate, right? They're going to get their 6 minutes and $500 an hour for every email, text message. Luckily, I had a great attorney who was very lenient with some of those things, but he still had work to do. And the work was gnarly. It was involved, and there's a lot of back and forth and so on. And I just wanted it to be over, Julia.
I know I keep going back to it, but the emotional work was gnarly, or just your finances were gnarly?
His work preparing for court, working through negotiations, and
Okay.
I mean, it took us 30 days to get her served the documents for divorce, because every time the process server would come to the house, she'd run out the back door.
Yeah.
Right. So that stuff cost money.
Yes.
And where does that money go? In the attorney's pocket. Where should it go? Yes. In the kids' college savings fund.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's all wasted. And I saw that happening. Right. And I'm thinking to myself, I got to put this thing to bed. Like, how do we get this thing over with? And looking back, had I spent a little more time with it, I probably would have made some different decisions, because I was on the hook for a ton of alimony and child support and everything else, because that's just the agreement we had. And then the pandemic hit and business basically dried up, and I was put in a position where I had to go start my own company in the middle of a pandemic with zero income, zero clients, zero revenue.
Yeah.
And I was still on the hook for a gigantic number every month, because I signed the document like your client did. So I carried that with me, right?
Yeah.
That's why I tell people all the time, we've got to slow down. We've got to take some time with this. We've got to look at the hard numbers on it. And I know it's in the EQ, right? Like you're in your heart, and in your stomach mainly. You just want it to be over.
Sure.
But you've got to be the CEO of your life and start thinking here and take your time with it, because you will likely regret it if you don't.
I had an incredible, her name is Julie Quaid. She was like head of the Collaborative Divorce of Texas. She's amazing. And she really wanted me to understand what my rights were and what was possible, but she didn't try to force me in any certain direction. But she did. There was a couple decisions that I made that I just, in my gut and my values, I didn't want to do. I'll just say, it doesn't matter. I was not going to take his retirement. He's a teacher, put himself through school, through 2 master's programs. That felt icky to me, because that was what he worked really hard to earn. Now, I know I was working too and supporting him, but it was a decision that I made and I felt really good about it. And at the time we were at private school, and I said, well, because you get half tuition remission because you're at the school, I want to pay for the other half because you're working for half. I felt really good about it. I still felt good about it afterwards, but pandemic, he lost his position, so now lose that 50%. All these things changed, but I still felt good about it because it was the right decision for me.
Yeah.
And I'm really, I got lucky. I got lucky about that I went with that, because I could have very easily gone a different direction. So I, like you said, that, like, check your gut, check your stomach. Does this feel right? Are you doing this to be revengeful? Are you doing this to be overly apologetic?
Yeah.
2 not good reasons to make those decisions.
I'll give you a perfect example, and this is where I think some of this came from. I recognize that my attorney was great on the legal side of things, and if he's listening, I'm going to apologize for saying this, but he was awful on the financial,
Sure.
not understanding the nuances of how different retirement accounts work, contractual obligations that like there was some agreement that came up with the vehicles that we had and who was going to pay for the lease and who was going to turn in the car at the end of the lease and all this other stuff, and which was not followed. So there was that problem. But there was one word in my divorce decree that almost put me in a position where we had prior to 2019, alimony payments were tax deductible to the payer, taxable to the recipient. Okay. So before 2019, in 2019, those laws changed. They are no longer deductible to me. They're no longer taxable. So only one person is the payer is still responsible for covering the taxes. Mm-hmm. We got the divorce done before the laws changed. Unfortunately, there was the attorney used the word buyout. What is that? 7 letters? No, 6 letters. 6 letters the word buyout was in there as part of the alimony. And the IRS looked at that document and said, well, it's a buyout. So that's an asset sale to the ex-spouse, not a payment of alimony to the ex-spouse. So we're not going to allow you to deduct your alimony.
So
I got audited by the IRS, and it took 3 years and another $25,000 to fight the IRS to make sure I could deduct my alimony.
Wow.
Luckily,
was there something without getting too specific, because I don't think it's good to put down, especially public or exes, but was there something that could have been done that your ex could have done?
This was not her doing, it had nothing to do with her. She would never have done. Yeah. It was literally the word buyout triggered something in some audit factory somewhere at the IRS that basically said, yeah, we're not going to let you do that. So we were able to get it flushed out. And actually she, on her side and along with her attorney, they were great about it. They were like, this is ridiculous, because she too could have been audited. Right.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that nobody had to worry about that with the IRS, because you do not want to mess with the IRS, people. Do not mess with the IRS. Like, just don't. And I had to unwind it and get the document updated. So to remove the word buyout, none of the other terms changed. Everybody was in agreement with it. We sent it off to the courts, sent it off to the IRS. It's been kumbaya ever since. So hopefully I'm not vocalizing another audit into existence by bringing this.
No, you're addressing, pick people that know what they're doing.
Exactly. And that's the whole circling back to that exact point is, if you make a mistake with 6 little letters, it cost me $30,000 and 3 years of headache with the IRS during COVID, when you can't get anybody on the phone now, never mind during COVID to get help there. So that's my message for that's part of our
slow down and get it right. As much as you can. Mistakes happen, but get it right now.
Absolutely.
For the future. Yeah, more. Absolutely.
Well, I have a laundry list of more questions to ask you. So we're going to have to do a part 2 here, because there's no way I'm going to be able to get to them. But I'm so appreciative of our conversation today. How can people contact you? Like, what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to get some help from you?
It's pretty easy. It's juliahoffmancoaching.com. And one of my moments going through divorce was waiting for a call from my attorney, having who knows what it was, some emotional breakdown. And she, after 2 days of waiting, right? Because there's no emergencies. There's not really an emergency legal divorce, right? Everything takes a long time. So waiting a couple days for her, pulling over on the side of the road, just sobbing on the phone to her. And when I got off, I thought, that's not the right person to be talking to. But I have a lot of friends and family and people, but I did not have anybody that I felt like I could really all the time trust and reach out to. The reason I'm saying this is that's what I could have used. I could have used a 911 person in the moment to talk me off the ledge, to talk me down. It would have saved time and money and decisions. I could have gotten clear a lot earlier. And so that's what I am for people. I don't think Tuesday at 10 and then you meet the next Tuesday at 10. For divorce, that doesn't work.
Mhm.
So I talk to my clients all the time, text and phone.
So how does that work? I mean,
so my long-winded way of saying it's very easy to reach me. And then the communication that's just a part of it. It have to be able to feel like that I'm like a main resource. And it really, really helps. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had. Like I'm in a parking lot and they're somewhere and I'm just bringing them down. I've done a lot of crisis work and all of that. And if I can just get people to a place where they feel like they're not spiraling, then they can go on with their day and take care of whatever they were spiraling about tomorrow when they talk to their attorney or their financial person. So I'm really proud of that. I think it's really helpful.
You're the break in case of emergency person, right?
Yeah, because there are going to be in this process.
How does that all work? Because I have not heard of this. I mean, we've talked to a number of therapists, and there's usually the 10 a.m. on Tuesday, and we'll see you again next Tuesday at 10 a.m. relationship. So how does that work for you? Like, is there a flat fee for your service? So listeners can understand how that works.
Yeah, that's a good question. And the 10 o'clock on Tuesday, people are really needed, right? I'm certainly not saying the especially people do collaborative, all those people aren't needed, but this is what I feel that I do best. And so, yeah, I have just a package because I know my strengths. I have a lot of strengths, details and financial details. This is why we're so glad we're connected, Jamie, because now you can be my point financial person, but calculating, I talked to them for 12 minutes. So that's this much of that just doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work for them either. So it's an investment. I'm not going to say it's not an investment, but it's worth it because of I'm not going to say hand holding, but just it's really a wrap around support.
Yeah. So it's more like a more white glove than you would probably get from other experiences.
Yeah. And both people. I mean, if I work with a couple, again, you don't have to have the person, your spouse that you're divorcing. If they're not on board, it's okay. Still make a lot of progress and set a really beautiful foundation to have a great relationship. But I work with a lot of couples and they both will contact me. And there's just something about it that when I'm talking to one of them, I can remind them about something about the other one that's really helpful for them to be thinking about, right? About dropping their ego, about being how they're speaking to them. I'm just helping them remind themselves to be good to each other because that is what they want.
Yeah.
They don't need to stir up more shit.
Absolutely.
So that's
what I'm a big fan.
And so happy to talk to anyone, but don't ask me about money because certainly not. I'll just save you time with legal fees by helping you with conflict, because the last thing I'll say, and I feel like it's really important always to say it, divorce does not harm kids. Divorce is not the thing that harms kids. Parents who fight, parents who have conflict, that is what hurts your child.
Yeah.
So people think I'm getting divorced, boom, automatically. I've already failed. I've already fucked up my kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of my guides I called How to Not Fuck Up Your Kid with Divorce, because that would be what they would say. The first call was always, I don't want to fuck up my kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have a lot of control to have that not happen. So, but you need to get past the idea that the divorce is a failure and it's a foregone conclusion. It is not. Get your shit together and stop with all the unnecessary back and forth, and your kid will be fine and you'll be a lot happier. And I know that sounds so trite and easy, but it can be. It really can be.
Yeah. Well, you're living proof, right? And I'm watching it on the other side in my own relationship with my now wife. You know,
Yeah.
there's something
Call
to be
me,
said
Jamie.
about it.
Call me,
Yeah.
Jamie. Well, no, I was going to say, I'm not making you a podcast deal because that's not a good financial thing. It'll be worth it. Call me. It'll be worth it. Or we can barter.
There you have it. There you have it. I'm always down for a good barter. But Julia,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining me. I'm so
Oh, thank
appreciative of your
you.
time, all the good advice. And, you know, so
Yes.
Julia Hoffman coaching.com is the website. If you're listening and you're driving or whatever, you're not a place to write this down. Don't worry, it's going to be in the show notes. So you'll be able to get access to Julia here if you need the help. And I'm so glad we had this chance to meet, and I look forward to
Yeah.
working with
Thanks
you.
for what you do. Thanks for what
Yeah.
you do. It's really important. Nobody wants to think about
No.
money anytime, really, or money complications with divorce, and having someone that they can just pick up the phone and call, like you. Especially, I know you said most of your clients are women. The majority are women. What an amazing thing to have, like, a trusted person who understands what it is emotionally to go through a divorce and knows what he's talking about. Really, really, really helpful. So I'm so glad to know you.
Well, I will pay you later for saying that. I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
Thanks again for your time, listeners. Thank you for tuning in. If this was helpful, please don't hesitate to reach out to Julia here. She's obviously amazing at her craft, and she's here to help as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, do all the stuff that you do on social, so you can be updated on the goings on here when new episodes are launched every Wednesday. So I look forward to seeing you guys and you hearing from us again sometime soon. Thanks again.